There comes a moment in every life when the noise of the world becomes so loud that you can't hear the whisper of heaven anymore. You start to believe you've been left alone, abandoned in the middle of your storm. But today, hear this divine message: God is standing right beside you. He has never taken one step away from where you are. Even when you couldn't feel Him, He was there. Even when you stopped believing in yourself, He still believed in you. There are moments when the weight of life becomes so heavy that you begin to wonder if heaven has turned its face away. You pray, but there's silence. You search, but nothing seems to move. You cry, but the walls echo your pain back to you. It's in those moments that you must remember the eternal truth: God's presence never leaves you, even in silence and struggle. His nearness is not determined by your emotions or circumstances, it is rooted in His promise. He said He would never leave nor forsake you, and His word has never failed. The storm doesn't mean He's gone. The darkness doesn't mean He's distant. The silence doesn't mean He's still. In fact, it's often in the silence that God does His most powerful work, shaping your heart, strengthening your faith, and maturing your spirit for what's ahead. You must understand that God doesn't have to speak loudly to be working deeply. The unseen hand of heaven moves quietly, rearranging the unseen, aligning the impossible, and preparing the miracle you've been praying for. When you can't trace His hand, you must trust His heart. His presence is not proven by how you feel, it's proven by who He is. Feelings change, but His faithfulness never does. Even when your heart is breaking, His presence is holding you together. When you are walking through the fire, He's walking in it with you. When you think you are alone in the valley, He's the shadow that never leaves your side. God's silence is not absence, it is strategy. He allows moments of stillness so that your dependency shifts from sight to faith, from emotion to trust. Sometimes He hides His hand to reveal His heart. He steps back to see if you'll step forward in belief. He knows that faith is not built in comfort, it's forged in uncertainty. When you can still lift your eyes to heaven and say, "I know you're here," that's when your spirit begins to rise above your circumstances. You stop looking for evidence and start walking in assurance. You stop searching for signs and start trusting His sovereignty. The struggle you're in is not to break you but to build you. God's presence is not just beside you, it's within you, sustaining your spirit when your strength runs out. That quiet strength you feel in your weakest moment is His breath keeping you steady. The peace that doesn't make sense is His presence guarding your mind. Even in pain, there's proof of His nearness. Every battle you survive, every tear that dries, every door that closes, they are reminders that something greater is holding your life together. So when the silence grows long, don't mistake it for abandonment. Heaven's quiet is not rejection, it's preparation. God is closer than your fears, stronger than your doubts, and more present than your pain. Even when the world turns away, He remains beside you, steady, constant, and unshaken. His nearness is not a reward for strength but a promise of support. Many people believe that God only draws close when they are doing everything right, when their faith is perfect, or when their hearts are pure. But God's presence does not depend on human perfection, it depends on divine compassion. His closeness is not something you earn, it is something you are given. He does not wait for you to become strong to stand beside you. He stands beside you so you can become strong. In your weakest moments, when your spirit feels fragile and your hope is fading, that is when His presence surrounds you the most. The very places where you think you've failed are the same places where His grace builds foundations of strength you didn't know you had. God's support is not seasonal, it is eternal. He does not leave when the fire gets hot or the night grows long. He doesn't pull back when you stumble or fall. He remains constant, patient, and faithful, even when you are uncertain and broken. The strength you think you've lost is not gone, it's being renewed through His presence. Every breath you take in weakness is an invitation for His power to take over. The moments that seem like collapse are often moments of divine construction. He uses your fragility to reveal His firmness, your emptiness to reveal His fullness, and your dependence to reveal His sufficiency. God doesn't bless you because you have everything together, He blesses you because He has chosen to stand with you until you rise. His support is not performance-based, it's relationship-based. He is a father who doesn't abandon his child because of mistakes but stays until the lesson turns into strength. He is the anchor that keeps your soul from drifting when life's storms threaten to pull you apart. He holds you steady when the winds of doubt try to move your faith. The promise of His support is not just spiritual, it is emotional, mental, and physical. When you can't find peace, He gives you calm in the middle of chaos. When you can't think clearly, He gives you wisdom beyond understanding. When your body feels weary, He becomes your energy to keep walking. This is the nature of His presence, it doesn't wait for you to prove your worth. It meets you exactly where you are and carries you toward who you are meant to become. So if you feel weak today, don't see your weakness as disqualification. See it as a doorway to divine strength. The reason God allows your strength to run out is so you can experience His. He is not calling you to fight alone but to lean fully into His support. You are never expected to carry the burden by yourself, because the one who stands beside you carries what you cannot. His nearness is not earned through power but received through surrender, and in that surrender, you find the unshakable support that never fades. Every tear, prayer, and trial has divine purpose and recognition. Nothing in your life escapes the attention of heaven. Every sleepless night, every whispered prayer, every moment you felt unseen, they have all been recorded in the heart of God. There is not a single tear that falls without being counted, not a single struggle that goes unnoticed. God is a master of purpose, and He never allows pain without planting within it a reason that will one day be revealed. What feels like loss to you is often preparation in disguise. What seems like delay is divine timing being perfected. You may not see the full picture now, but heaven sees the end from the beginning, and every step, even the painful ones, is part of a design far greater than what your eyes can perceive. Your prayers are not empty words floating into the air. They are seeds that travel into eternity, watered by faith and patience. God has a way of storing prayers until the appointed time. Sometimes He answers immediately, and sometimes He waits until the soil of your heart is ready to receive the blessing. When you think nothing is happening, something is. In silence, God is aligning people, shifting circumstances, and orchestrating outcomes that will serve your good. The delay is not denial, it is divine development. What you're waiting for is already in motion, but it must mature before it manifests. Every trial you face is a classroom for spiritual growth. God doesn't waste pain. He transforms it into wisdom, empathy, and strength. The very challenges that break you also shape you. You begin to discover who you are not by what you gain, but by what you endure. The struggle refines your faith, teaching you to trust when you cannot see and to believe when you cannot feel. God often uses trials to separate what is temporary from what is eternal, to strip away what distracts you from His purpose. In the process, you learn that faith is not about escaping the fire but walking through it with confidence that you are not alone. Your tears are not a sign of weakness, they are sacred language. They speak to heaven in ways words cannot. Each one becomes a testimony that you held on when giving up seemed easier. God collects them, not to remind you of sorrow, but to crown you with strength. The tears you shed in private are preparing you for public victory. Every season of weeping has a season of rejoicing attached to it, even if you can't see it yet. So when you face trials and cry prayers that seem unanswered, remember that heaven has heard you. The silence is not a lack of attention, it's evidence of a deeper process. You are being shaped by unseen hands, guided by divine intelligence, and held by eternal love. Every tear has meaning, every prayer has power, and every trial is pushing you closer to the destiny written over your life. Opening your heart immediately invites God's power to move. Many wait for a perfect moment, a sign, or a feeling before they open themselves to God, but divine movement begins the instant the heart surrenders. God does not require perfection, He requires permission. When you open your heart, you make room for heaven to intervene in ways beyond your understanding. The door of your heart is the gateway of His presence, and the longer it stays closed, the longer you delay what was meant to transform your life. God stands ready, not as a distant observer, but as a present force waiting for invitation. The moment you say, "Lord, I'm open," things begin to shift. Chains you didn't even know you carried start to break, peace begins to settle, and clarity starts to replace confusion. There is a spiritual law that governs the movement of God. He responds to openness. A closed heart blocks His flow, but an open one becomes a vessel of His power. When you resist, you restrict. When you release, you receive. Many people pray for miracles but keep their hearts locked with fear, doubt, or pride. God's power cannot move freely in a heart that is guarded by distrust. He wants access to the deepest parts of your being, not just the parts you show on the surface. The power of openness is not emotional exposure but spiritual surrender. It is saying, "I no longer want control, I want connection." When you reach that point, the presence of God moves not just around you, but through you. Opening your heart is an act of courage because it requires vulnerability. It means allowing God to see what you've hidden from everyone else, your pain, your disappointment, your fears. Yet those are the exact areas He wants to heal. He cannot fix what you pretend is fine. The moment you open up and let Him in, He begins to restore what's been broken and renew what's been lost. You begin to see that His power doesn't only change circumstances, it changes the person within them. The heart that opens becomes a home for strength, wisdom, and divine peace. When you delay opening your heart, you delay your transformation. Every time you hesitate, you postpone the miracle waiting on the other side of surrender. God doesn't force entry, He invites cooperation. The longer you hold on to fear, resentment, or guilt, the longer you carry weights you were never meant to bear. But when you release them and say, "God, I'm ready," His power begins to rearrange everything. Doors open that were once shut, burdens lift that once crushed you, and peace floods places where pain once lived. Openness activates divine flow. It's not about doing more, it's about yielding more. It's not about being worthy, it's about being willing. When the heart opens, heaven responds instantly. You don't have to beg for His presence, you just have to make space for it. The moment you open fully, His power begins to move freely, restoring, healing, and guiding every part of your life toward the purpose He designed. The valley is not a sign of absence but a stage for transformation. Every person who walks with God will eventually face a valley, a place where light seems distant, where progress feels slow, and where questions grow louder than faith. Yet it is in that very place where God performs His deepest work. The valley is not a punishment, it is preparation. It is not where God leaves you, it is where He shapes you. The mountain may reveal your victories, but the valley reveals your foundation. In the low places of life, you learn what cannot be taught on the mountaintop: dependence, humility, endurance, and unwavering faith. God uses the valley to strip away illusions, to silence distractions, and to bring your attention back to His voice. When you walk through the valley, it's easy to assume that silence means distance. But in truth, silence is the language of growth. The roots of a tree grow deepest in the dark soil where no one can see. Likewise, your faith grows strongest in the hidden seasons of struggle. God is not absent, He is simply operating at a level you cannot yet perceive. The valley is where your vision is refined. It's where you stop depending on sight and start relying on trust. The same God who stood with you in sunlight walks with you in shadow, and what He teaches you there will sustain you when you rise again. Transformation always requires tension. The valley creates the pressure that turns your potential into power. It is there that your character is tested, your motives are purified, and your endurance is built. You learn to worship when nothing makes sense, to believe when nothing changes, and to stand when everything inside you wants to fall. That is where transformation begins. God never wastes a valley, He uses it to produce something in you that comfort never could. The pain you feel today is forming strength that will sustain you tomorrow. In the valley, you also learn the reality of divine companionship. When everything else fades, you begin to see that God was never behind you pushing, but beside you walking. He does not observe your suffering from a distance, He walks through it with you, step by step. His presence may not remove the difficulty, but it empowers you to move through it with grace. The valley is not meant to bury you, it's meant to build you. What feels like loss is often the foundation of future victory. If you look closely, you'll realize that the valley is holy ground. It's where tears become prayers, where pain becomes purpose, and where surrender becomes strength. It's where God transforms brokenness into beauty. When you finally emerge from the valley, you carry wisdom that cannot be taken, faith that cannot be shaken, and peace that cannot be explained. What looked like emptiness becomes evidence that God was working all along, not in your absence, but in your transformation. Faith must speak louder than fear to reveal God's closeness. Fear has a way of disguising itself as logic, whispering that things will never change, that the pain will never end, that you are alone. It magnifies what is temporary and minimizes what is eternal. But faith, even in its smallest form, carries a voice that has the power to silence fear's lies. Faith doesn't deny reality, it declares a greater reality. It acknowledges the storm but refuses to let the storm define the outcome. When faith speaks, heaven responds. It becomes the language that activates divine presence and releases strength beyond human understanding. God draws near to the voice of faith, not because He needs your confidence, but because faith is the bridge that allows His presence to move freely in your life. Fear thrives in silence, but faith thrives in confession. When you speak words of belief, you are aligning your spirit with the promises of God rather than the pressure of circumstances. Every time you declare, "I trust you," even when you're trembling, you invite divine strength to stand in place of human weakness. The battle is often not outside but within, the war between what you feel and what you believe. Fear will always shout, but faith must choose to answer louder. You may not be able to silence fear completely, but you can drown it out with words of truth. Faith speaks what fear cannot comprehend. It proclaims light in the middle of darkness and victory in the face of impossibility. When fear dominates your thoughts, it distances your awareness from God's presence. You begin to think He's far when He's near, silent when He's speaking, absent when He's working. But when faith rises, it opens your eyes to see that He's been beside you all along. Faith changes perception. It doesn't always change the situation immediately, but it changes how you see it. You begin to recognize that fear only has the power you give it, while faith carries the authority of heaven. God never asks you to be fearless, He asks you to be faithful. Faith is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. When you act on faith, you create space for divine intervention. It's not about pretending everything is fine, but about trusting that even in the unknown, God is still in control. Fear says, "What if I fail?" Faith says, "What if God comes through?" Fear focuses on loss, faith focuses on purpose. Fear magnifies the obstacle, faith magnifies the one who overcomes it. Every great miracle begins when faith speaks louder than fear. It is the sound of trust rising in the middle of uncertainty. The moment you choose faith, the atmosphere shifts. You begin to sense peace instead of panic, strength instead of weakness, and hope instead of despair. Faith invites the presence of God to reveal itself in your situation, reminding you that you were never alone, that heaven was closer than you realized, and that victory has always been within reach.